Welcome back to another episode of STL Real Estate Roundtable. I'm your host, Jaden Barr, CEO and team leader of Keller Williams Chesterfield. And today I'm joined by a very special guest. Jimmy Barton. Jimmy, thanks so much for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having me. I've been watching these, so I'm like, man, I want to get on. Text you.
Finally got the invite.
Yeah.
It only took you 50 episodes.
Yeah, right. I'm the 50th best. Let's be. No.
That's right. That's right. No, I have a top down, right?
Yeah.
But this is the 50th episode,
Nice.
So kind of a good number.
All right, yeah.
Good number.
Maybe a little bit.
I saved you for a special
50th.
Monumental.
Yes,
correct. Well, I start off every episode pretty much the same way, which is what got you started in a career in real estate.
Yeah. So I didn't like, I guess we can go back, but I didn't have any idea that, hey, I wanted to be in real estate. You know, I didn't want to be a realtor type of thing. It wasn't like, it kind of just fell into my lap. But background was I got my MBA. I went to a few colleges, ended up going to Maryville, got my MBA there, was a financial analyst, sitting behind a desk, looking at Excel all day, doing payroll stuff, and just hated it. And so I was like, man, I don't know what I want to do. I was 22, 23 at the time. Mm-hmm. Went and did door-to-door sales for a company called Empire Today, just interim job. Ended up being like top sales rep at the company, in Missouri. And my buddy at the time, who's on the Gelman team now, Matt Burjans, was like, man, and I was working like 60 hours a week. He's like, man, if you work this many hours and sold real estate, you'd make double the money, triple the money, whatever it may be. So like a week later, I was like, all right, let's do it. Quit, work for the Gelman team. Been there since.
That's awesome, man.
So that's how I got into it, which is wild. But now I'm in it. I love it. It's a career. I was like, man, everybody's like in college, like, what's your career? You got no idea when you're a lot of, no. Some kids do.
Right.
But for me, I had no idea, like, what is my career path? Mm-hmm. But now I think of this as 100% my career, growing it, being the best I can be at it. So
yeah. And it's
worked out.
You grew up in athletics, right?
Yeah.
Similar to me. So I think we connect on that very well. And, just knowing like the work ethic to be the best that you can be and, always looking to grow and, take your game to the next level. I think that's something that really separates a lot of real estate agents out there, especially the top ones. Yeah. Just because they're always looking to grow, right? It's not not something that you can just become complacent in. Yeah.
And I think, there's a lot of jobs where, you get residual income. This job is, what are you doing for me next? Like after you get paid, or after you close a deal, whatever it may be, there's no residual to that. I mean, there's a little bit of residual from client referrals, but in terms of the next paycheck, you have to work for it. Like there's nothing handed to you in this business, which some people, you can hate it or you can buy into it and love it. Right. And I think that's something else that separates other people. People quit this job because there's no residual, because you're only paid on commission, things of that nature. Where's your next paycheck coming from? You don't get, like, in this business, once a deal closes, where's your next deal? Right. Mm-hmm. So, and I think in sports, it's like nothing's given to you. You're
very similar.
You're competing for every, I was basketball, you were football. Mm-hmm. But I know you played a little basketball too, right? Back in the day. Yeah. So, I just think that you end up coming from that world of sports where it's super competitive. This job is, I don't know, it's competitive, but it requires the same sort of mentality that you need to be good at this. So, it works.
And similar to sports too is, you're going to have an off shooting night, or you're going to have a bad game where you throw 2 picks, and it's like, how do you respond and how do you pick yourself up? Right. So that way it doesn't carry over and you make more mistakes the next drive or the next game. And, you got to be able to flip the switch really quickly. And same thing in this industry, right? You'll have deals that fall apart. You'll have mutual releases. You'll have clients that for some reason they choose to work with another agent, not you, right?
Wait, that's wild.
Mistakes are made, right? And so I think just having that mentality, and I think sports just helps with that a lot.
100%. And I think, it's not, once you learn, I train some of the newer agents on our team, and I always explain it that, once you learn it, the first 6 months is very hard. The first year is hard. There's a learning curve to it. But once you learn it, then it's purely a mental thing, where this business, and that's with a lot of sales, I think, but it's purely a motivation thing and an energy thing. Your clients can tell if you're down. So it purely becomes a motivation business. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to be good at this, right? Yeah. So that's something I love about it. That it's purely just what you put into it is what you get out of it.
Yeah.
And I also explain this always that, I left my salary job, which when you're sitting at a salary job, you look at, how much you're making, how much you can save to make X amount of dollars in X amount of years to get you to do X, Y, or whatever you want in life, where you could work this hard and you still get paid this, or you could work this hard and you're still getting paid this, where in this business, it correlates to, if you're not working hard, you're not getting paid. If you're working hard, you're going to get paid. So I think I call this business very fair, because it rewards you for your hard work, and it punishes you for, or I wouldn't say punishes you, but it doesn't reward you for things you're not doing. So you can't cheat the system. Yeah. There's no way around it. Either you're doing it or you're not doing it. And if you're not doing it, you're not getting paid, and you're not building your business. If you're doing it, you are. So,
and it's also like a 3 to 6 month timeline too, right? If you look at where your business is right now today, I guarantee you can trace back 3 months ago. What were the activities that you were doing that resulted in that business that you're servicing right now? Right. And if it's slow, if you look back 3 months ago, okay, that was when I was on a 2-week vacation, and I took a break for the holidays, and I took time off, and it truly is pretty remarkable how, like you said, it rewards the work that you put in.
Yeah, and that can frustrate some people, because if you're at a salary job and you take 2 weeks off, well, it's not going to affect your pay a year later, or 6 months down the road, and that can frustrate some agents. Or you can buy into that and say, look, if I'm working, I'm gonna, it's going to pay off. So it's a mindset thing on
delayed gratification.
Yeah, delayed gratification. I mean, it's purely, what's cool about it, and what's also not cool, is it's purely a mindset thing. So if your mindset's in the right place, it pays off in all aspects of your life. Not only on the business side too, but I also think like I always say, your personal life, your spirit, whatever it may be, it's all connected. And so it pays off everywhere. If you're having a hard time in your personal life, it's also going to affect your real estate business. So, it almost makes you, like, if you're good at this, it makes you a better person all around, because it requires that.
Yeah. I mean, you're working with people on a day-to-day basis, right?
Yeah.
Human connection is in there, right?
Yeah. Well, that's it. Yeah. So I talk, a lot of people are like, Jimmy, you're all about the, the money and all this stuff. And, I say, yeah, that is important, because, I think a lot of people that use me know I'm kind of like a no BS guy. I don't have the ability to like tell you, BS you, like, I'm only doing this because I love to work with clients and things of that nature. I think there's a part of that where this business is very, you're helping somebody through an important transaction. So you get that reward of like, man, I just helped somebody buy a house. They love their house. You get that closing and they're all excited. And I think that personal connection is awesome, because when I was sitting behind a desk and you're at this big corporate company, you're just a little dot in this big thing. There's no
cog in a wheel.
Yeah.
You leave tomorrow, they're going to have your job filled on Monday.
Correct. So I think there's this awesome side to the business to where you get that personal connection and you're part of this big decision and you consulted them through this whole transaction and, they're super appreciative. So there's the personal aspect to it. But then at the end of the day, if I was just doing this for the personal connection, why not go work at a charity? So I think there's some no BS to, dude, you're also doing this because there's a financial reward to it. If there wasn't a financial reward, you'd be working at a charity, right? Yeah. So I think, from my perspective, when I'm talking to clients, like, and maybe it'll even come from this podcast that, I'm not bluffing behind, hey, I just love people and, I'm a no BS. I want to win deals for my clients. I'm telling you the truth. And this is how it works. And if you don't like that, then go work with somebody else or whatever it may be. Yeah. I'm not going to. And I also think there's this thing in business where, people say, hey, a buyer agent will say, hey, I'm going to find you that perfect house. And from my perspective, the agent role has changed from 2000s when or prior to the internet to now, because most buyers have Zillow on their phone. Yeah. Right. And so if you're telling the buyer, hey, I'm going to find you that perfect house, and then they get on Zillow and it notifies them prior to you texting them.
They found the house.
So they find the house. So at the end of the day, the buyer agent role to me is not part of it's telling you, hey, this is the right house for you, but it's not finding you that perfect house. It's a more of a consulting role to say, this is the right house for you. Yeah. This is the right price. This is how you work through the contract. This is how you negotiate.
This is the offer strategy. This is correct. The inspection negotiation.
And if you go up front and you're telling them, if your sales pitch is, hey, I'm going to find you the perfect house, I'm going to find you an off-market house, you're one, to say that truthfully to somebody and them feel that, like, to me, I think it comes inauthentically, because I'd say 95, I don't know what the data is, but I would say 97% of deals are done on the MLS. Mm-hmm. And so if you're telling them, hey, X, Y, and Z, but really what ends up happening when you're a buyer agent is this, I think setting expectations is such a big deal in this business. Yeah. So I don't know where we all went with that, but the authentic way I go about doing my business, I think draws to people because it just comes out naturally. Yeah.
So one thing I want to dive into, I noticed you're getting more active on social, building a social media presence.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are some challenges or things that you're currently working on in your business that are going to take it to the next level?
Yeah, I think, being on a team, a lot of the, business was given to me at the very beginning. And so I didn't have to, in terms of just lead generation. And so I didn't have to focus. I was more focused on just learning the business and getting good at it. Because, I'm doing in between 40 and 60 transactions a year, depending on the year, right? But, I think a big thing for me was I didn't care about a personal brand. I didn't care about becoming an authority figure on social media or whatever it may be. And so I think just from doing that many transactions, not that many agents are doing that many deals. Yeah. And so, I just know what I'm talking about now. And I thought, man, I know what I'm talking about. I don't love social media. Just it kind of goes against some sort of humility you're supposed to have sometimes. But it's the nature of the business. So I was like, man, it's just something I think you have to do to build a brand and, become an authority figure in the business. And so my thought process is, I think it helped me, one, grow my business from the social media perspective. Everybody's on it. The newer generation's for sure on it. It's a place that, I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook. So it's something my business was lacking. And so it was a place I just thought I'd go.
That's awesome.
So it's from doing it, it's like, man, it's an everyday thing. And you see these big guys that are really, really good at it and are always posting. If you don't have a lot of, it just takes up a lot of time. So there's a certain point of like balancing, like how much you can do versus how, you got to focus on your business and your clients. There's a mix. So, but I think it's the most, it's probably the most scalable model that you have. There's prospecting, there's door knocking, there's all these things. But, when you build a personal brand, ideally those leads are just coming to you organically, which is a lot more, less, you would think less time consuming as you grow it.
And there's already that connection too, right? They know you from your social media. So they already kind of have those expectations set of what it's going to be like working with you.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
They know, like, and trust you already.
Right.
Right. Okay. So what's something, you said 40 to 60 transactions a year.
Yeah.
I think there's probably agents out there. I think the top agents in the industry, they're agents are either looking for more time or more money. Right.
Yeah.
And so with top agents, the things that I find is that they're often looking for leverage, right? Ways, tools or resources or things that they can add to their business that are going to give them more time back, right?
Yeah.
So with 40 to 60 transactions a year, like how do you balance, like what's that work-life balance? How do you,
I'd say,
how do you create that?
I don't know that's something I'm looking for. Cause I don't know that as we were talking earlier before this, this started, I have 2 kids now. 3 at home. And so I'm looking for more of a work-life balance. Prior to that, I always say being a realtor, it's a lifestyle. It's not just, hey, it's a job, because sometimes you can't turn off. Now I've gotten a lot better at setting buyer expectation or seller expectations to, hey, don't text me after 7 p.m. at night, or I don't say it in that way, but hey, I just typically don't answer my phone at 7 p.m. after 7 p.m. And then, they end up not texting you after 7 p.m. after you don't answer, until the next day at 8 a.m.
Right.
Right. So those things I've gotten better at, but, prior to kids, I wasn't so focused on, work-life balance. I was work.
It's like, how can I grow this thing?
Yeah, 100%. So, now that you have, I have kids and wanting to be home and around kids, that's affected that a lot. That's part of that social media thing is not having to prospect for multiple hours a day, things of that nature. But no, leveraging and scaling, transaction coordination, I think is huge. Getting out of the weeds on being in the middle of all these transactions, especially when you have multiple deals under contract, that's the most time consuming part, where I also think that's the most time consuming part, but I also think that's where you build a lot of, the trust with your clients, because that's where a lot of the work is needed. Negotiating inspections, helping them through financing, explaining the contract to them in a way, we're obviously not attorneys, but you're still at least explaining the general gist of the contract to help them understand it.
Yeah.
So I think, it's hard. I mean, I think it's the hardest part of the business, either growing, showing assistance, building out a team. I mean, that's where you scale or you become the broker. But, I've struggled with that. So it's something I'm still working on.
Yeah. And there's a lot of agents that are trying to figure that out, right?
Yeah, I think it's the end all be all question in this business, which ends up being, hey, build a team, become a broker, or start coaching it. But if you there's a part of me that just likes the deal and likes winning deals and likes work. Like there's also that competitive part where it's like kind of like doing this and winning deals and, selling listings or whatever it may be that you like, there's a lot of people that I know in this business that are just like, man, I can't give it up because one, either you just like controlling it and you don't know how to give it up.
Want to wear the cape.
Yes, correct.
To do all the things.
Or you just, there's a few people that are just like, man, I just love it. So part of me is I like doing the deals. Like I like being part of the whole thing to where I don't want to hand it off to anybody else, or I don't trust anybody else to talk to my clients in a way I want them, so those things I haven't like come to grips with
right
mentally.
Right. Yeah. I think it's it's such a challenging aspect too, right? Because I mean, you're doing business at such a high level, like more and more people are going to want to work with you. And so how do you balance that to where you're still servicing everybody at the level that they're expecting?
Right.
Definitely. So what's kind of like the goal for you, this year? How are things going this year? How are you navigating all the changes that are happening in the market?
Yeah.
Are you noticing anything different?
I started in 2018 and the market, it's getting closer to that, I think, to where, 2018, 2019, end of 2019 was probably the start of multiple offers. And that's where I had a great year because I was like the first guy I wouldn't say I was the first guy, but I was one of the guys like, look, you need escalation clauses, all this other stuff to win some deals. And it was kind of the early part of that. And so I won a bunch of deals. Like I did 2019, I did 37 buy side transactions. So ton of buy side transactions, but I won a ton of deals just on escalation clauses where I thought it was right prior to COVID where it really just got hectic and crazy. But, so 2018 when I started to now, that early years was just a different time to now where I think it's getting back to that, to where it's, I think we saw there's some stat where it was 25, only 25% of houses are on multiple offers. So I think that the buy side was so difficult and so time consuming in these multiple because, Friday night you got to get in there. If a house, 2021, 2022, even 2023, a ton of these houses, you got to get in Friday night, right? When showings start, you got to write offers right away. You're on call at 9 p.m. at night trying to win this deal, to where 2018, 2019 is just like, hey, if you write this weekend, first weekend, you'll win the deal, and not wait a week to see another few houses. And so, I think you're getting back to that. So I think it's getting a lot easier as a buyer agent and for buyers because, a lot of these areas are getting to 3 months, 4 months of inventory to where business is not as difficult, which I think, the 2020 to 2023 really made you a good agent, right? Because if you're able to win all these deals, now you're, this is such a cyclical business that now it's a lot easier, but just easier. But now it's requiring a lot more on the list side, setting expectations on the list side, pricing homes.
Skill-based market, right? It was speed, now it's skill.
Yeah. So now it's the list side, the buy side's more about, hey, what's the right house for you? This is the right house. Is this, the question is always, is another house next week going to pop up that's, $20,000 less that's going to be just as good as this house, or is this the right house? That's the question a buyer wants to know. Is this the right house for me based on the price, right? So that the buy side, it's not as much of a rush typically. And so that's more the conversation. And now the list side is, hey, where the heck do I need to price this house to actually sell and build urgency and not become stale on the market and sit there and things of that nature. So, each market's different. I like this inventory market a lot better. Just it's it's not.
I feel like I can service clients at a higher level because it's not just, okay, here's what you need to do to win. Are you okay doing that?
Right.
It's like 100. It's like, do you want it or not? Because this is what it's going to take to win.
Right.
I can't really negotiate a whole lot for you. It's like, do you want it or not?
Right.
Now it's like, okay, there's, this is the strategy. This is what I think we should do.
Right.
Based off information that I have. And
right. And comps and will this, the question 2018, 2019 was, it's, do you like this house? Do you want it? And is it priced accordingly? Or is there another house that's going to come on the market next week that's going to be, or 2 weeks from now, that's going to be $30,000 less,
right,
and be in similar condition or better condition? And so that conversation, which is the buy side, you become significantly more educated in the market than the list side because you're in tons and tons of houses. And so if you're not working both sides, let's say you're just a listing agent or you just want to take on listings, your education in the market, you don't know as much because you're not in as many houses. You have to be in these houses and in the field to know.
Yeah.
And that's why I always explain to first time home buyers, I'm like, I can tell you this house is priced right, but until you see 5 to 7 houses, who am I to tell you that? So you'll see this first one, it might be the perfect house, but until you see 7 that are like, man, that one isn't as good, that one isn't as good, that one isn't as good, and these are all 20,000 more. Oh, that house was the right house. Now it might be gone. Luckily, some of these are still sitting, but it's rare. But I always explain to people, first time home buyers, I'm like, look, you probably need to see 5 to 7 houses before I can convince you that this is the right house for you. Now because you saw them. So now you're educated in the market too.
Absolutely. I got 2 more questions. I know we got to get you out of here.
Yeah, you go.
So looking at the business that you've built, what are you most proud of?
I think it's what am I most proud of? That's a good question.
I'm full of them.
Yeah. I just think it's all the client relationships you build through this. Like I built for one of my, he's a good buddy of mine now who, I talk to probably once a week. The client I don't always talk about that, but it's a really cool part of the business, all the relationships you build. I think of it as just an additional perk to the business. It's something you create lifelong friends in some of these transactions. I wouldn't say everyone, some are different than others, but I have probably 4 or 5 really good buddies just from doing this business. So I'd say that part I'm proud of. I think this business requires hard work, period, if you want to be good at it. And so, the years accumulate on themselves. And so I'm just proud of, they probably just, I don't know if it's how good I've become at this, but just my ability to, I feel more like a consultant than a
salesperson.
Correct. People reach out to me just asking me questions all the time. How's the market? What should I do here? I got a buddy in Nashville that he was buying a property and called me just to run stuff by me.
I've had that several times, right? Yeah. Friends that are out of state, they're like, my agent said this, but what do you think?
Right.
I'm like,
which you're probably the agent, but that's the cool. I think you truly become a consultant. And I say that all the time to these new agents. I'm like, the first 6 months, you kind of do feel like a salesperson, but eventually you are consulting these people through a transaction rather than selling them on buying XYZ. You can't sell people that don't want to be sold to. I think that's the other big thing in this business. It's like, if you don't want to buy right now, that's where that agent breath, or commission breath they talk about, if these people don't want to buy, all these scripts and things that people are selling, I'm just not into that, because it's like, dude, if this guy doesn't want to buy or this girl doesn't want to buy, okay, no worries. Like, I'm doing well enough in my business to where I don't have to feel like I have to talk these people into something they don't want to be talked into. It's just like, okay, no worries. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're in an industry that people love talking about too. Like, it's not like we're really not even selling houses. We're selling ourselves, right? Yeah. Of like, hey, this is the level of service and the value that I bring to a transaction when people choose to work with me.
Right.
And then, at the end of the day, like you said, like, people are probably going to find the house on Zillow, and then it's your job to consult with them on, is this the right house?
Correct.
This is the offer strategy, this is inspection negotiations, all the things that come with the transaction process. But people love talking about real estate. Yeah. Everybody's got a Zillow search set up. Everybody wants to know what interest rates are doing, what the market's like, how much their home is worth.
Yeah.
That makes it a lot of fun.
Yeah. And it's super consumer facing. So it's, there's a lot of these businesses that are B2B sales or whatever it may be. It's probably one of the most, it runs our economy. The residential market is a big part of the American dream and running the economy. So, and it's consumer facing, fair housing, right? So,
yeah. Okay. Last question. So what's been the most impactful book or podcast that you've read that's had a major imprint on your business?
Book or podcast? So, the book you talk about, I read in The One Thing, I think is an amazing, it's probably one of my, you talk about it a lot, but that's one of my favorite books I've ever read. The David Goggins book.
Can't Hurt Me.
Yeah. That book had me so motivated to like just change it is one of the coolest books I've ever read. So if you haven't read it, I don't know, have you read it?
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Ready to run through a brick wall.
Yeah.
Like, anytime I hit snooze, I'm like, David Goggins is just so disappointing. When
he gets a bad rap now because of all his stuff when he's running and yelling at the camera and stuff. But if you read the book, like I read it, I don't know. Maybe 2020, 2021, I don't know when it came out, but my cousin and me ended up running an ultra marathon. Like I did no training. I think my cousin read the book. I think he read the book and ended up getting into it. And then he called me like 2 weeks before his ultra marathon. I was like, hey, dude, you want to run this thing with me? I was like, sure, I'll run it. Ended up running. But yeah, that book,
I think I did a marathon a couple of months after I read the book.
It's like,
no training.
Yeah. Oh, it gets you in anything, being this business is motivate. I always talk about it as pure motivation. I'm big on like writing goals down and all that stuff. But yeah, that book is it was a cool book.
Yeah.
So
it's awesome. Well, Jimmy, you're an awesome agent.
Yeah.
I'm grateful that you took the time to be on the pod.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll have you back for episode 100.
Yeah, there you go.
Another 50 episodes. 50 episodes later.
At least 50.
Awesome, man. We'll catch you guys on the next episode.